I'll start by recognizing myself and Ranking Member to present our opening statements. And without objection, the members of the subcommittee can submit their opening remarks for the record. Now I yield myself as much time as I may consume to present my opening statement. Good afternoon and welcome to this hearing to evaluate the North America Free Trade Agreement. About 20 years ago, we passed this, I think, wonderful piece of legislation and entered into this agreement. And just last month, the subcommittee held a hearing in my home state of Arizona on our commercial relationship with Mexico and what we can do to better facilitate the flow of commerce along our southern border. So today's hearing on NAFTA is an appropriate follow-up to that hearing, this time looking more broadly at our trade and investment relationships with both Canada and Mexico, the strengths and the weaknesses of NAFTA with 20 years behind us, and what needs to be done now to improve upon this agreement. I want to thank Chairman Royce for his leadership. I believe he'll be joining us at the hearing today. We had a little vote that interrupted everything on the floor, and I apologize to our panelists on a rule. Yes, and that, you know how important that is, the former Rules Chairman. It seems clear to me that America's leadership in promoting free trade policies has been an important, vital part of American prosperity. The level of competition created by free trade policies has been the impetus for remarkable innovation. While leading to the opening of exciting new markets around the world, at home this has allowed the American people to access more varied goods and services at lower prices, while creating jobs, a practical and positive effect for free trade that benefits every American. And American leadership in promoting free trade agreements globally has been instrumental in the spread of economic freedom and the rule of law worldwide, and has spurred unprecedented economic growth in the developing world. Indeed, free trade has proven to be the most important tool of U.S. foreign policy seeking to promote individual liberty and economic freedom around the world. The world isn't entirely free yet, but the message of economic freedom and the power of entrepreneurship is being spread to faraway corners of the globe thanks to American leadership and free trade. 20 years ago, NAFTA was a truly groundbreaking agreement, becoming the first regional trade agreement between two developed countries and a developing country. There was a lot of controversy surrounding NAFTA then, and even today it would be misleading to conclude that NAFTA was a perfect agreement. No trade agreement ever is. What it did do, though, was to integrate the U.S., Canadian, and Mexican economies, resulting in what today is a $19 trillion regional market. Indeed, figures from the United States Chamber of Commerce suggest that a combined total of 14 million U.S. jobs depend on trade with Mexico and Canada. Canada is the United States' largest export market and our most important supplier of energy. Meanwhile, it's worth noting that Mexico imports more U.S. goods than all of Latin America combined, and more than Brazil, China, India, and Russia combined. NAFTA reduced and eventually eliminated trade barriers, leading to a generation of impressive growth in trade and investment among the three countries. This resulted in production sharing made possible by proximity between the three economies by integrating and strengthening supply chains and key industries. What this means for the United States is that imports from Mexico contain 40% U.S. content, and imports from Canada can contain 25% U.S. content. By way of comparison, imports from China contain only 4% U.S. content. Despite the reassuring, promising numbers we will likely hear from some of our witnesses, now that NAFTA is 20 years old and all grown up, we have an obligation to take a critical look at the agreement and find ways to make it even better. I've always been a firm believer in free trade and positive effects of truly free trade. That's exactly why right now, as negotiations are underway to liberalize trade through Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, TTIP, and the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, is exactly the right time to look at NAFTA, figure out where it helped U.S. businesses and commercial interests and the interests of American consumers and families, and where the agreement may have failed us. As we learned during our field hearing on trade facilitation with Mexico, 20 years into NAFTA should be the time we recommit our resources to border infrastructure by identifying new approaches to financing and commercial partnerships so we can make the investments necessary to make cross-border commerce more efficient and streamlined without neglecting legitimate security concerns. The U.S. should partner with and press Mexico to continue addressing the insecurity that plagues Mexico while reforming and updating its judicial system. While NAFTA certainly improved our commercial relationship with both Canada and Mexico, the treaty needs to be addressed. It needs to be able to address 21st century trade challenges. One of these challenges is intellectual property rights protection issues that persist with our Canadian neighbors. In 2013, the USTR designated Canada as a watch list country on its Special 301 report. This is a pending issue between our nations, and I hope we can resolve it soon to ensure that individuals and companies have transparent legal avenues to ensure ownership and profits for their innovations. Further, it's important to note that there is only political support for these trade and investment agreements as long as people follow the rules and the rights of innovators and investors are protected. It's notable that the North American energy independence and security was conspicuously absent from original NAFTA negotiations. At the time, Mexico had a constitutionally closed energy regime, making its inclusion impossible. Today, Mexico is engaged in implementing serious energy reform that will open its energy sector to foreign investment through a constitutional amendment they recently passed, promising to increase Mexican oil production and make North American energy independence a reality. Sadly, today, the roadblock to realizing energy security and independence in North America has been put up by the Obama administration right here in the United States. I once again call on the administration to finally approve the Keystone XL pipeline, which would be a job creator and an important part of our energy security for this country. Continued obstruction not only threatens the environment as less secure modes of transportation are utilized, but it sends a negative message to our Canadian partners and allies. I want to thank Ambassador Carla Hills and my friend, former Congressman David Dreyer, for testifying on our first panel, and Mr. Eric Farnsworth, Mark Elliott, and Dr. Duncan Wood for joining us on the second panel to discuss the North American Free Trade Agreement, the accomplishments, the challenges, and the way forward. I look forward to a productive hearing. Would now recognize the chairman of the full committee, if that's all right with you.
I think we should go to Mr. Series.
Is that okay? Let's go to Mr. Series then.